Hey everyone, welcome back. So I wanted to try something a little different again. I know when I started off my podcast, it's almost 10, 11 months ago now, um, the whole idea was just to really share my journey to moving to New Zealand and trying to share with you what worked for us, what didn't, and just our story so you can, learn from us and have a softer landing. That was the whole purpose of the podcast. There's a lot that's evolved in the last 9, 10 months, and there's a lot of stuff that I've started getting involved in, and I'm not trying to get into that today. But what it made me realize is, last time I really shared the story of our journey for the first year of getting here. I mean, we've been here almost 3 years now in New Zealand, and we left South Africa in February, end of January, beginning of February 2023. And my first few podcasts, I think it's episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, pretty much tell our journey, but it really only gets up to the first 9 months, maybe even 12 months of us being here. So like our first year. So I really wanted to pick up on that journey from about the 9, 10 month mark of us being here and just share a little bit about where we are now, almost 3 years in. I won't be able to get through it all in one episode, but I thought it'd be nice just to share with you a little bit. Also just to keep it real. So I know a lot of my other podcasts, the way I sit and everything like that, I've been interviewing and I've been really getting into the practical stuff, interviewing financial people, etc., which I think is very valuable. And I really want to keep sharing that information. So I'll continue with the migration and money episodes that we're busy with. I know we've only published 3 of them so far of the 7 that we're going to be doing. But I thought today, and in between this, I want to share a few podcasts just about being real and just sharing our journey. So starting with that, if you go listen to my podcast 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, you'll pretty much get an idea of who we are and how we got here and pretty much our first 9 months of being here. But where I really left off in that podcast 6, at the end of that one, was we were at our first year where we had just gotten here, we've got our container, we've got our rental now, we've been through a lot of ups and downs in that first year, but we're really getting towards our first Christmas here in New Zealand, and we were starting to think that we were kind of getting into a groove and kind of getting there. But I think that's where I want to share reality hits, and there was a lot of other stuff that still was happening in the background. Some of it I wasn't ready to share, and I think it's taken a little bit of time. So now we're a little bit further along and it's time to share. And one of those things was, towards the end of that year, it may have sounded like we had things together and we had things under control, but it wasn't actually that easy. In the background, what we had just found out at the end of 2023, it was around about October, November, and we had only been here about 9 months, as we found out at home that my sister-in-law had been diagnosed with cancer and she was ill. And I think that's a tough one to deal with. You've just moved countries. You've just really got to the other end of the world, literally, in New Zealand. And now you've found out this news. And I know it was even harder on my wife than it was on me, but it's finding out that there's a family member that needs your support and needs your help, but now you're not there to give that help. So there's a lot of guilt that's going through your mind that you're not there to help. But also it's hard trying to cope with that. I mean, you're going through a lot of stuff here in New Zealand as it is, a lot of stress trying to adjust and, get shit together here and get your family sorted out here. And now knowing you've got a family member back home that you can't be there to support. And with us, over and above her being diagnosed with the cancer, what was also very difficult is that our story was that we had my mother-in-law staying with us in South Africa. So she lived with us in our home, in a cottage, but in our property, in our home. And one of the big and toughest decisions when we pulled the trigger to move here is we knew we weren't going to be able to bring my mother-in-law with us. So we needed to figure out where she would end up staying and be looked after. And we actually eventually came to the solution that she was going to stay with my sister-in-law. So not only had we just left South Africa and we're here now in New Zealand for 9-10 months, but we also had my mother-in-law staying with my sister-in-law, and now to find out that she was ill, my sister-in-law, with cancer, that worried us about that whole situation, not only for my sister-in-law, but now for my mother-in-law, who was now staying with her, and how is this going to work? Because my mother-in-law needs a bit of help. That's why she can't stay by herself. She's not physically able to do everything herself. So that's why she was staying with us, and we could make sure we were looking after her and she was okay. And we thought that my sister-in-law would be able to do this now. But now with her being ill, she actually needed help as well. So that just compounded the sense of guilt of us literally being on the other end of the world, that not only were we not there to support her and help her through this extremely difficult time in her life, but we've compounded it by now having my mother-in-law that was our responsibility and we were looking after her, now being with her and being an extra, I hate to say the word burden, but just extra responsibility for her that she really didn't ask for. So there was all this guilt and emotions going through your head. And this is me talking from my experience. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for my wife, because this is her sister and it's her mother, it's her family. So it was really, really, really tough. And I think what was even harder is finding out that she had the cancer. If you've listened to any of my podcasts, I had cancer. And I know the feeling of finding out that news that you've got cancer. You first got to go through all those different stages, and one of the first stages is denial. You just can't believe this would actually be happening to you. And not only that, you know, one of the things, and I know it got me through it, is you definitely got to have that mindset that you're going to be able to beat this no matter what. But it's not going to be easy, and it definitely isn't an easy thing. Depending on what stage and what cancer you have, it can be even more challenging. So now knowing that she had to face some really tough times ahead, knowing what she's going to be going through, and knowing that she had the responsibility of not only her own family and kids, but now also my mother-in-law, and all the financial side of it as well, and the medical and everything. It was actually just such a nightmare finding that out. And then trying to work out, we've only been here 9 months, we spent all our funds to get here. Could we send my wife home to go and support them? And the reality was we just couldn't. Financially, it was just, we'd spent all our resources to get here, to just get to a point where we weren't even 100% stable ourselves here in New Zealand. To try, at that stage, my wife didn't have a job. We were just working on the one salary, it was my salary. The two kids had just started getting into school, kindy. I just got my daughter into the right kindy, where she seemed happy. My son was doing well at school. Now to try and have me juggle that with a new job, and I'll talk about the job now. When I say new job, it's the one that got me across here to New Zealand, and we were only not even a year in. We couldn't work out how we could let my wife leave us behind here to be able to go back to South Africa to be with her sister and her mother. And I know there's nothing more my wife would have wanted, to be able to go back and be with her sister and be with her mother, especially through something so difficult. And then to have to make that difficult decision, not with your heart, but with your mind, to not let her go back. And I even felt guilty because I was the one holding her back and stopping her from doing it because we needed her here. So that is a real tough thing to have to try deal with. And that's why I'm starting to share with it now, because we're like 2 years down the line. So I think I'm at a space now where I can start sharing a bit more about what was happening in our lives at that point in time. It's just not easy. It's really not easy. And there were some tough decisions to be made towards the end of our not even our first year of being here and leading up into Christmas. So that was the one challenge that we had to deal with. The other challenge that also hit, and I did mention it in the last episode 6, which is in line with this journey of ours and sharing my story, is I also just found out at work that I got a new manager that started on at the company I was in. And with any new manager, they like to do things differently and they want to put their mark on things. But what actually happened was there was now rumors that we were going to go through a restructure or a consultation period. They weren't going to kick it off just before Christmas, but they were starting to talk about it, that there would be changes in your position and all your responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. So now, over and above what we were dealing with in our personal lives, with my sister-in-law being ill and trying to support family from afar, and online, which is extremely difficult, never mind just the challenges of trying to settle and get your own life sorted out here in New Zealand, I now had the worry that I'm the only salary earner and the only means of income to support our family. And I was worried whether I'd be able to keep that job, and what did it mean going into the consultation period, and what did it mean to my position and what I had to do, and would I even be able to keep my job? And jobs weren't easy to come by. I mean, it was tough as well going through the whole interview process, as many of you will know. So now I had that added stress on the back of my mind that, oh shit, this is now happening. So I'm not one just to leave it. So what I did start doing, but again, just before Christmas, is I started applying for jobs and going on to Seek and looking what was out there to see, hey, I can't wait around and hope that they'll be able to keep me employed. I don't know what the outcome of this restructure is going to be and what it's going to mean, but I got to have a plan B. So start trying to find another job just in case. Wrong time of year to try look for a job though, because I think that made it even harder, because now what happened is, it's physically difficult getting those interviews. Everything's winding down towards the end of the year. People are not employing until the new financial year or new physical year. But what it also did is it tested me, because what was really difficult is I was applying for job after job after job, and sometimes I wouldn't even hear back from them, or you just get declined and you don't know why. And then you start thinking, well, is there something wrong with me? Do I not have the right skills to actually make it work here? I did so well back in South Africa, but I'm really struggling here just to find another job. And even the one that I've got, now they're trying to restructure it, and I don't know, you start questioning so much in your mind. And it really puts you under a lot of stress. And it really makes you, the emotional toil and the up and down that you have to go through. And you start snapping, and everything at home, it's hard to keep that home life going, because now we've got so much stress and so much worry going on between everything that's going on. You're trying to keep it normal for the kids, so for my daughter and my son, so that you're trying to protect them from a lot of it as well. So you don't tell them everything that's going on, but it's hard trying to, just be able to manage it right, get enough sleep, just being able to not take it out on each other, meaning my wife and I, snapping all the time. My daughter would come and ask and want to play, and you're exhausted both emotionally and physically, and just trying to balance all of that it was extremely hard. Over and above finding out about my sister-in-law at that point in time, and now also having this worry about what this consultation and restructure potentially meant for my job and everything like that. What we also, on top of it, it's like the cherry on top at the end of the year, and I mentioned it in the end of episode 6 podcast. Our landlord also decided to come back to us, and we thought we finally had a home in the area and everything that we like. Not that we had even been there a year. And the landlord came back and said, no, they want to move into the home. They want to move back into their house. So they were giving us notice. So now we were also thinking, geez, we also got to be able to find another rental and move again, which is the upheaval and everything like that. It was terrible. Not to mention, again, at the end of the year, worst time to try find a rental. There's just, everything shuts down here from mid-December right the way through until mid-January, sometimes even the end of January. So now we had that stress of, are we going to be able to find another home? We're going to have to move out soon, and boxes and packing and trying to do all of this in between. Now I'm going for interviews because I'm worried. Well, I'm trying to go for interviews because I'm worried I won't be able to keep a job. I got my sister-in-law not well back in South Africa, and we don't know how bad the cancer is, what stage it's at. We're still trying to find out, and will she be able to beat this or not? We're worried about my mother-in-law being able to be okay in that household, knowing that she needs support, but now can't really get the support from my sister-in-law, who actually now needs support as well. Not to mention my nephew was also staying with him, and my niece, and it was just such a worry. And I know financially they were even struggling, so that was a worry on top of it. Because another thing I didn't mention is, because they were in a difficult financial position back in South Africa, my wife signed the lease for the house that they were in South Africa when they all came to live together, because that was a way we could get them into a home, that my mother-in-law could be looked after and whatever. So it was just, there was so much, and I know some of it can be self-inflicted, but just it was all compounding towards the end of the year. So we had all of this going on all at the same time. Never mind, we're trying to build up towards Christmas and try to have a good time. I mean, Christmas is our favorite time of year, so trying to put on a happy face for our kids, and knowing that Santa's coming and putting up the Christmas lights and everything. So you're trying to keep the normality going, but at the same time, in the back of your minds, both my wife and I were struggling with all this personal stuff going on between me trying to find jobs, keep my job, dealing with her sister who's not well, dealing with working out timing to be able to find another rental. Oh, and I must mention, at the same time, we said that after the first year, going into the second year, my wife would also want to start working. So she is a phenomenally strong woman. I don't even know how in between all of this, what she was also doing was going for interviews. And amazingly, her skill is so sought after that she had 2 great interviews where she could even choose between 2 companies, and they wanted her to start in the beginning of the year in January to start with them, I mean. So thinking back, I don't even know how we were coping, with everything that was going on. I can even remember that sitting, and it sounds terrible, but I was obviously chatting with my sister-in-law and everything like that, using WhatsApp notes and everything like that. And I know one of the messages that she sent me, I was sitting in the bathroom on the toilet. I know it sounds terrible, but they're listening to her WhatsApp note in tears with what she was saying. I mean, what do you say to a person? I know I've had cancer and everything, but it's trying to help a person and keep them positive and keep them motivated, but also knowing that what they're going to be going through is going to be extremely tough. This is not an easy thing. Fighting cancer, it's tough. And I'll get into it more in the next episode, but the stage that she was at when we finally found out, it was far along. So we knew with the stage that she was at, it was going to be a slog. She was going to have to go for chemo. She was going to have to go for treatment that was going to drain the hell out of her. So it was just, trying to figure this out and work out how we were going to work through this was extremely stressful. Not to mention, we know that they were financially in a position where it was just challenging just to be able to live day to day. Now we knew there was going to be all these medical expenses and everything like that. And would they be able to afford it? We weren't in a position anymore to be able to help a hell of a lot, because we had spent all our finances getting here. So it was really difficult to put on a happy face going into town every day at work, and trying to smile and do my best, knowing that I'm the newbie there, hadn't even been there a year, and never mind that I'm new to the country and everything like that. So trying to make sure that you could add value in the position they had brought you across to this country for. But at the same time now, knowing that he's going to, my new manager was going to potentially restructure and ask for, I don't know what out of me for my new restructured position, and whether I'd be able to even cope with that, with everything that was going on. It was tough, And at that stage, I wasn't even able to work remotely much. I had to go into the office all the time. So my wife was left behind with the kids, running them around, trying to keep the house going and trying to go for interviews while I was trying to work and then come back and then help. And then we were trying to deal with stuff back home, and then at the same time starting to try to find boxes, pack up, and trying to find another place. I promise you, it was an end of year that felt incredibly overwhelming. And I look back now and, geez, did we have grit to get through that? I don't even know how we were getting through it. But I think really why I want to share this, and I'll continue sharing my journey, just so that you can hear what we've gone through and maybe learn from us. Like I said in the beginning, that's the whole purpose. But it's more just to show this immigration journey immigrating is tough, man. This is not an easy thing. This is really, I know I keep referring to it, but there's a lot of things I've struggled with in my life, and fighting cancer was not an easy thing either. But I can tell you, moving to another country is not easy either. This has been one of the most difficult things I've had to do. And I'm sharing this to tell you that, there's some of you out there that have just moved across here and are just in that first year and are going through hell. Everybody's got their story. Everybody's got their journey, Everybody's got their challenges that they're going through. But I think more than anything else, I just want you to never give up. Just know you're not alone. It's not unique to be going through hell. And it's not normal to, have all these emotions that you have to deal with, and how you and your partner have to stick together, but can also be so angry at times and frustrated, and how work can be foreign and you question that you're even good enough to be able to do the job, And then when you can't find jobs and you're interviewing and everything like that, the struggle and the emotional toil that puts on you, it's tough, and then over and above it, the guilt that you feel about the family that you've left behind and not being there to be able to help them. This is all normal stuff, okay? You can get through it. You cannot give up. You just got to keep pushing on. You got to keep communicating with your partner no matter what. Try understand each other. Try be patient with each other. Try find things that can give you a little bit of a glimmer of hope. So me, it's my walks, it's going out in nature, reminding myself what I'm grateful for here, going to gym for my sanity. Try find those outlets that can just help you cope and get through this. Talk, communicate with each other as much as possible. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and I've got this right. By no means have we got it right. But somehow we've got through this. I think my wife is an incredibly strong person. If just telling you the story now and just thinking it through, it's incredible what she's been able to go through and been able to do, But I think it takes a lot of communication, a lot of grit, and a lot of commitment to constantly remind yourself why you've done this. Why are you here? So on those tough days, those tough months, you can just keep pushing on through. And mine was all about my kids. That's the big reason we've moved here, is for my children, and when we were having those down days and things weren't going well, I just had to keep reminding myself, I've done this for my kids. I've done it for my son. I've done it for my daughter. I can see how they're thriving. They're doing well. Brett, just keep pushing on. Don't give up. Just keep going. So this is why I'm trying to share a little bit more. I'm going to leave it there for today. That's the bit that I'm going to share. I think I'll pick it up in the next one. Maybe I'll call this series The Journey Continues. Maybe that's what I'll label it. I hope it wasn't too boring, me sharing my story. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you guys doing? Reach out, ask if there's anything I can help, or just chat about. Sometimes it's just nice to chat, reach out to somebody. I know it's also tough making friends out here when you're in a new country, but you want to reach out, ask anything. Hey, if I can help, I will. You guys must keep well, and we'll chat soon in the next episode. Cheers.